Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan, and I am pleased to have my two co-hosts with me, Barry Long, the second, and the great Rudy Reyes. Joining me, we're going to break down some NFL games here. We're going to get right to it. I'll find out later what these guys are up to in their respective platforms, but let's get started right away because we got a big game going tonight. At least I think so. It may be not a very good matchup. We have a Pittsburgh Steelers team that is missing their starting quarterback and has Trubisky starting under center. But I'll tell you what, guys, I have an angle here that I'm going to show you that I think really stands out. It's a contrarian bet on the New England Patriots plus the 6. I wouldn't be surprised to see this line go down to 5.5. So if there is 6s still out there, I would grab them now as opposed to waiting till game time. But this is a dog with fleas. And I love saying that because, even dogs with fleas they can give a lot of rewards to their owners, right? Just because they have fleas doesn't make them all that bad, even if they only have 2 wins. But betting on road underdogs that have allowed fewer than 100 rushing yards in each of their last 3 games, 21-33 straight up. So, okay, that's a dog with flea. But against the spread, 37-16 with 1 push, 70% since 2019. Now, if our road underdog is priced between 3 and 9 points, which they are, and that result has done even better at 20-5 against the spread, and that calculates to an 80% winning situation. And guys, there's one more yet. If the game occurs after week 12 of the regular season, which is basically the last 25% of the season, these dogs are a perfect 10-0 against the spread and 5-5 straight up. So you have a 50% probability of the Patriots winning based on history. And you're going to get a money line that you can sprinkle that's going to be, I forget what it is. It's got to be about $3.50. So you're getting paid very handsomely to assume the risk of a dog with fleas named the New England Patriots. And I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to shock everybody tonight and score some points and catch the Steelers by surprise.
I'm going to have to dive in on that one. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You're a Steelers fan.
First of all, I don't know that I can take that bet. However, we did see that Arizona and the Steelers, it was complete debacle at home. It wasn't even on the road. And the Steelers just basically wet the bed in so many ways. It's just not even funny. From miscommunication at the line to guarding blockers. Then the infamous thing happened. Of course, I don't know how infamous it is, or depends on who you're asking who infamous is, or does he have a last name? Well, infamous injury is the last name. And of course, you see starting quarterbacks going down within the NFL landscape. We've seen that as Jacksonville basically lost against Cincinnati with Trevor Lawrence going down with an ankle issue. So you have most starting quarterbacks right now with an ankle, leg, shoulder, or an Achilles tendon issue, which is the biggest issue of all, in my opinion, or a rotator cuff or what have you. But the Steelers at home have been relatively good. They were shocked by Arizona. They weren't prepared for Arizona. And frankly, they underestimated Arizona. So whoever had taken that bet against the Steelers and had taken Arizona, kudos to them and well-deserved. And unfortunately, with Kenny Pickett out, I'm not a big fan of Mitch Trubisky. Yes, I know he doesn't cost that much money, and yes, he's not a huge financial liability for the Steelers team. But at the same token, defense needs to find their identity and fast. Offense needs to find their identity and fast. Mitch Trubisky went on record stating that he's trying to lead this team down the field. Unfortunately, I know that the talk is bigger than the action when it comes to Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers team. He hasn't exactly lit up the screen in different areas. Yeah, by the numbers in a dink and dunk situation, that's one thing. Don't forget, Matt Canada is gone, so they're kind of playing this OC by committee with Eddie Faulkner and Chris Sullivan. So I don't know necessarily that I would take any bets against the Steelers because, for all intents and purposes, this could be the end result and obviously very bad for the unknown starting quarterback in New England, whether it's Zappe or it's Mac Jones. Neither one has really impressed me this year. The running game hasn't been all that great. Defensively, they've been stingy at times throughout the regular season. I just don't know they can catch the Steelers off guard that much to get the dub at Acrisure tonight.
Yeah,
Barry, I have something for you before you go.
Okay.
Since 2019. And I'm debating this with Rudy, but I'm losing my enthusiasm now after hearing Rudy say that he likes Pittsburgh. And even though he is a fan of the Steelers for a long, long time, he's very objective. And that's a good thing because, betting with your heart or making a prediction with your heart usually doesn't go well unless she's very good looking. And right now, the New England Patriots are not very good looking at all. But anyway, since 2019, Thursday night favorites, 32 or home favorites, 32-19 straight up, 63%. Not bad, right?
Not bad
but
at
only
all.
18-32 against the spread for 36%. So can Pittsburgh win and satisfy Rudy, and then New England gets a backdoor cover in the last 2 minutes of the game, perhaps?
I mean, you want to hope for that. You absolutely certainly believe that it's going to be a low scoring game. Both teams are quarterback challenged. We saw what New England looks like all season long, and they've only got 2 wins. And the best bet for them, because it's not Bailey Zappi, it's not Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. You'll catch that. That's a Mike Jones reference. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just believe that both of these teams are quarterback challenged. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have got to feel like you have one of the best backup quarterback situations in the league because of the time period and the tenure that those guys have been with the team. Mitch Trubisky was, a former top pick. And so you got to feel good about him coming off the bench. You also got to feel good about Mason Rudolph. He's come in and he's won games for you over the past few years. So, this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they win by defense. They're led by making big defensive plays, starting with those 2 guys up front, Highsmith and TJ Watt. And then on the back end with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and getting him back healthy, I think is going to be huge. I look to see this to be a low-scoring game. I really do believe that if you're the New England Patriots, the main thing you should be doing right now is tanking. You should be tanking, and it is time to go out and get a Michael Penix Jr., a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, someone besides Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. I look for this to be a low-scoring game, and I agree with Rudy. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I do like them to cover.
I guess, folks, I'm outnumbered. I know it's a reach, but the numbers always get me in these situations because it's so contrarian that I actually like it. So, in game, I might take a little bit of a breather and not bet it all pregame. And then look for in game for Pittsburgh to score first in the first half and score a touchdown. If it's a field goal, it's irrelevant. If they score first and it's a TD, then I think I might be quite tempted to, feed my dog with fleas a couple pieces of pizza. Dogs with fleas like pizza.
Those dogs.
Your dog eats pizza? Your dog eats pizza?
Oh, I love pizza, and I don't have fleas that I know of.
Well, there's something that I want to throw out here. The Steelers are 7-2 with Color Rush, and that's what they're wearing tonight at home. So I'm just saying, you want to talk about historical value? That has historical value. And besides, I love the Color Rush jerseys myself. I actually own a couple of them. So I don't know if I'll be wearing mine tonight, but I do know that that the Steelers look great, and there's no jersey like it in the NFL.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. You think the Steelers jersey is the best jersey in the NFL?
No, I said Color Rush.
Oh, Color Rush. Okay.
Yeah,
the Color Rush. Yeah. I like the Color Rush as well. The Ravens.
I like the lightning bolts of the Chargers. The helmet. The helmet, I think, is the best helmet.
I was going to say the team itself is in debacle right now, but that's another story.
It's still a pretty helmet.
Yeah. The Bengals have a pretty helmet.
This is from my golf days. A senior, this is like 30 years ago, told me that it's always better to play bad and look good than it is the other way around. Great advice. And I try to do it as often as possible. Let's move on to the big game this Sunday night. The Eagles. And, of course, I've been able to tune in because whenever the Eagles have a loss or a Philadelphia team has a loss, it literally becomes like the world is ending for the franchise. They got clobbered by the 49ers, but the 49ers have clobbered Dallas and Miami already this year. And arguably they are head and shoulders better than everybody else in the league. But they did catch the Eagles in a gauntlet of a schedule. They had Dallas at home. They won that game. They had the bye. Then they had the Chiefs. They won that. Then they had Buffalo in dramatic fashion, getting outplayed getting out dominated, period, in that game, but they found a way to win. They have won 5 games this year where they were outstatted in the box score. Only Pittsburgh, and we all talk about Pittsburgh being smoke and mirrors. No offense, guys, but they have lost the total yards gained in 6 of those games that they won this year so far. No style points in the NFL, right? So I don't put much credence in that, but this is a huge game on the road for Philadelphia to go to Dallas and take care of business. They're right now a 3.5-point dog. Money is pouring in on Dallas. Starting yesterday, there was a big flow coming in, forcing the line to go to 3.5. I think it's going to go to 4. And what do you guys think? Let's start with Rudy here and see what he thinks any opportunity is for the Eagles to stop their 1-game losing streak.
A single game losing streak doesn't mean that they're going to tank. Unlike other teams in the NFL who should tank. I think the Bengals should tank. There are other teams in the NFL that also should tank. We know that the Cardinals should also tank despite that win last week against Pittsburgh. Look, and I've always said this from the very onset of any Eagles game I watch, stop the tush push. And I don't say that because it's not a competitive advantage. I'm saying it because it should be considered illegal formation. I understand an offset line. If you stick another, blocker on the right-hand side, that's an offset line. I get it. But a tush push should be illegal formation, even if you're at the goal line. Now, unless it's another team, and this is what O.J. McDuffie told me, former Miami Dolphins great wide receiver. He told me, he says, the only reason why people are mad about it is because they can't stop it. And if they're able to stop it, then there wouldn't be any conversation about it. Now, other teams could do the very same thing, and Eagles aren't the only ones that could do the tush push. But when it comes to this game against Dallas, this is a make it or break it. I don't believe it's an NFC championship game preview, but I do know that the Dallas Cowboys are certainly on a hot streak. Dak Prescott's probably playing some of his best football this season that I have seen him. Now, whether or not that's indicative of him turning a year older at the start of training camp, I don't know. But with age comes maturity in most aspects, not in all. I just think that when it comes to offensive production, the Eagles were ultimately embarrassed by the 49ers. And it was as if the Eagles were the class of the NFC. They're not the class of the NFC anymore. The class of the NFC has the current, at least not very much so discussed, Brock Purdy as the NFL MVP. And this is a piggyback that's going to remain on the regular season schedule for quite some time. But is the MVP, should the MVP roll over into the postseason play? And should that be wrapped into the NFL Super Bowl MVP? That remains to be seen. Regular season MVP, okay, Brock Purdy makes a good argument. Dak Prescott makes a great argument. Trevor Lawrence did before his untimely injury. There are lots of other quarterbacks who have kind of picked up the slack and playing better than they did last year. The problem I have with this game is that the Dallas Cowboys are playing on all cylinders firing right now between Michael Parsons on the other side of the ball. You just have so many pieces offensively between Pollard and it's just a mix of the next guy up syndrome there in Dallas. I just don't know that Philadelphia traveling to the Big D is going to really show the Dallas Cowboys that they come to play, because I think the Cowboys get the dub.
Barry, the secondary of the Eagles has been getting trashed for many games in a row. But it seems like everybody's focusing on the fact that you can't run on the Eagles' defensive line. Well, looking at the numbers, they're not able to run against them because they don't run running plays. They throw, and they throw more and more and more. I wouldn't be surprised to see Prescott throw over 40 pass attempts. And if that is a prop bet and it's 39.5, I'm all over it. Anything less than that. And I think they're just going to attack. And what position do the Eagles really are vulnerable in? Is the tight end. And, Dallas has a couple of those. So I just don't see, even with the new addition of the All-Pro that the Eagles signed, whose name is escaping me right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's going to make a difference. I don't think it's going to make a difference. And if I am an Eagle fan, I'm pretty darn nervous right now, like a cat on a hot tin roof type of thing. Because if they lose this game, then all of a sudden you got Dallas, 49ers, and Detroit all pretty much even going down the stretch.
Yeah.
Now the Eagles do play. I believe it's one of the high school teams 2 of the last 3 weeks. I forget who their name is, and then they have another high school team in between those. I think
they've got the Giants
with
and the
all due
Cardinals.
respect, I'm not making fun of the players. I'm saying the situation has
The
not been
varsity?
good for the Giants, and it's not been good for the Cardinals, and that's too bad. But the Eagles should be able to beat those 3 teams. But I'll turn it over to you, Barry, and tell us who's going to win this game. Do you think?
Man, this is going to be a dogfight, and at the end of the day, we look at these 2 teams, and Dallas, of course, being 1 game behind Philadelphia, and they're ready to take over that division, and they're ready to start winning that division. The way Dak Prescott's been playing, and you mentioned it, the 2 tight ends it's just a power force. I really love Ferguson, by the way, as well, and then it opens up the passing game for CeeDee Lamb. They're probably not going to run the ball as much. I look for 40 pass attempts or more as well. I agree. Somewhere around that 41, 42 range, depending on if this game, gets out of hand early. I like the Eagles. I still think that Dak Prescott plays well against the Eagles. That's one of the teams that he's been known to basically have the number on. But I just feel like the Eagles are going to want to bounce back. They're definitely going to run the football. And the tush push, regardless of whether you think it's an illegal formation or not, or regardless if you're a fan of it or not, or you call it the love shove, as some other people have been calling it. If you can stop it, then they wouldn't do it. And the fact of the matter is that it's working. So I have no problem with that. I do believe that the Eagles come back in a bounce back game. I know that they played 2 tough, or 3 of the last 4 games have been really tough games. They've had a tough stretch, but I feel like this is a get right game for them. Dallas will be hungry, and I feel like this is going to be it's going to be a high scoring game, and I think that it's going to be close. But I take the Eagles in a close game.
Yeah, I agree with the high scoring game. The total is telling you that it's basically at 50.5 points, and I do think it's going to be a very entertaining Sunday night. And I do. Thank the good Lord that the game is on the road and not in South Philly, because night games in South Philly, when they lose, you don't want to be on the subway or the trains. It's a mass funeral exodus from the stadium. It is really terrible. But anyway, let's segue ourselves into the college football playoff. And it hit me, I believe, Saturday night, watching the Georgia game. Alabama's winning. And it suddenly dawned on me that there was the possibility of not having any SEC team in the Final Four. And I originally thought, like, how in the world could Georgia not be in no matter what? 2-time defending champ. They haven't lost a game since they lost to Alabama in the 2021 season in the SEC championship game. If Alabama beats number 1, well, sure, they're in. If Texas wins, they're in because they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. But I was kind of surprised. But I think the committee made the right decision on Florida State. Yes, it's the first and will be the only time, since we're going to the 12-team format next year, that a conference Power 5 champion named Florida State that went undefeated did not get an invite. Okay, one player doesn't make a team, but that quarterback is really good. And I can see that the committee did pick the top 4 teams right now. Maybe not a week ago or 2 weeks ago or even 3 weeks ago, but these are the top 4 now. So I think they got it right. I like Texas to win this whole thing, and I like them quite a bit. They seem to be just clicking on all cylinders right now, and it's literally whoever they play is get out of my way. They are playing Washington, who is, they were the number 2 seed, yet Texas is favored by 4, being a lower seed. And I think that's telling us something, that in terms of the rankings, maybe Texas should have been number 2. And I also think Michigan's going to go down against Alabama. Michigan has not played a team like Alabama all year. Not taking anything away from Penn State and Ohio State, both very good in their own right. Both will finish in the top 10, I'm sure, in the final standings. But still, Alabama looked horrible there the first couple of weeks, right? They pulled it together. They named a quarterback, and look at them now. They just have a whole bunch of momentum going right now. And this Michigan defense has been good. It's been great, historically speaking, allowing 8 points per game. But how many times has Saban, Alabama Crimson Tide scored less than 20? I don't think that Michigan's going to stop them. But anyway, let's see what Rudy Reyes has to say about the college football playoff. And again, I am on Texas. If you want to bash me again, that's fine.
I have no issue with Texas at all. It's not that I have any problems with this. The problem that I have is that you have no ACC representation. And it's been quite some time since any ACC team has been in the top 5, much less going into any type of CFP. The problem that I have is that you're writing off a Florida State team that is undefeated, has been undefeated. Look, I understand the value of having them in ESPN. I understand the value. You want a competitive matchup. I get the ratings. I understand all of that, which I'm sure the committee had taken into respect. I just don't. There are other starting quarterbacks that have not done so well this year. Florida State certainly skied by the edge of their teeth because of their defense, despite not having Travis under center. So you're starting a freshman, quarterback, a true freshman quarterback, which doesn't look great to the screens of other people who are watching and may end up being a blowout. So I get it. I understand that. But an undefeated team that has now a different dimensional look because you have a true freshman starter under center doesn't necessarily should have ruled them out of being in either of these games. And they're undefeated. That means they are currently undefeated. They're the second undefeated team to enter into this outside of Michigan. So, I mean, this is a complete write-off of a very solid SEC team who has done everything right and nothing wrong, and certainly has earned their spot in a CFP that will unfortunately not see the light of day moving forward until, for some strange god-awful reason, a team forfeits, which will never happen in football, at least that I know of. I just think that they were left out of the playoffs unnecessarily, despite being proven, and all because of a true freshman starting quarterback. That is complete and utter nonsense. I don't believe that. That shouldn't be the case. Unfortunately, you want a competitive advantage. Well, there you go. You don't have the ACC champ in the mix. So good luck.
Yeah, he is a 4-star quarterback too. He has a great history. I don't have the notes in front of me, but he is a stud. I kind of, experience, I guess, probably weighed with the committee. And think about it, not everybody on the committee is a football expert.
That's the other
they
problem.
Probably don't even follow it as closely as we do, and that's not a slight. It's not a blame. But
is Condoleezza Rice still on the committee?
Game, like imagine being in a committee room where you're watching the Alabama-Georgia game and it's exciting as the day is long, right? Then all of a sudden you flip to the Florida State game and it's like watching paint dry. But that's how Florida State had to control that game. That's how Louisville had to control that game. They had to control the tempo, and that should be considered an asset instead of this team's not very good. They can't even score 30 points in this game. Well, it's a championship game. So I do agree with Rudy on this, that they may have missed it, but I still think in a matchup, of course, you look at the line for Georgia and Florida right now, Florida State, it's 14. Maybe 13 and a half now, but that speaks volumes to what it would have been had their starting quarterback been healthy. Georgia would have been barely a 7-point favorite, in my opinion. But anyway, Barry, what do you think here?
I mean, I don't know what the committee's smoking. I mean, this committee seems like it's made up of random people. Last I heard, Condoleezza Rice used to be on the committee. I don't even know what relevance she had or what credentials she had and credibility she had. But that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, this is a team that's been undefeated. Their last 2 games without Jordan Travis after that horrific injury where his leg was sideways. They're down to their third string quarterback and Brock Glenn. And I mean, the guy threw 8 for 21, 55 yards in the ACC championship. It was terrible to watch. And you know that the ratings are going to be taken into consideration. You also know that we saw what happened with TCU last season. TCU goes in there. Of course, they win the first game against Michigan, I believe like 51-45 in a shootout. But the second game, they come back and they lose 65-7. I mean, it was one of the worst national championship performances we've ever seen, if not the worst. So the committee is trying to avoid that, and I get it. I get that, that if you're Florida State and you're on that team, if you're Mike Norvell, you are ticked off. You're upset. What more can we do? And then you want to point out situations like Ohio State a few years ago when they had Cardale Jones as their backup that came in and won a national championship. You can always make that argument. But at the end of the day, the best 4 teams got in. And the one team that I wanted to see, eventually, like maybe backdoor get the 4 seed was Georgia, but obviously they lost that in the head-to-head matchup. I just felt like there was things that, even though they controlled that game, Alabama, I just felt like if you replay that game again, then the outcome may be different. And so ultimately, I'm happy with the top 4. I understand and I empathize with everybody from Florida State. But come on, man, you're not gonna have a chance against any of these other 3 teams with the performance that Brock Glenn put out in the ACC championship.
I'll conclude the college football part of our show with Texas. That game has a total of 64 points. Texas favored by 4.5. That implies that Texas is going to be scoring. The market is telling us that Texas is going to be scoring 34. So what do you think? They're going to score more or less is kind of the pivot point in this analysis. But in games in which Texas has scored 28 or more, they are 6-5 this season. That's not the greatest thing in the world, but 17-9 over the last 3 seasons. Over the last 25 seasons, 164-81. And in college football, the pivot point for a lot of these games, especially the marquee programs, is 28. Oklahoma, when they get 28 or more, they're astronomically great against the spread. I do think that Washington's defense is in a little bit of trouble here. They do give up a ton of points. Just ask Oregon about that. But seriously, I think Texas is going to get it done. And when they score 35 or more, they're 7-1 over the last 3 years and 45-17 over the last 25 years. So in-game betting, if they get out to a fast start and it looks certain that they're going to score 28 or more, it probably is a great betting opportunity with some pizza money to take Texas at whatever line it is at that point. They're certainly not going to take the foot off the pedal, that's for sure. And wouldn't it be fun to see a rematch of Alabama and Texas for the whole ball of wax? I'm kind of hoping for that.
I am as well.
Yeah.
If that was to happen.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think that game between Washington and Texas is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be. I think I love watching Quinn Ewers and I love watching Michael Penix Jr. But the thing is who's going to be able to make that final stop on defense, and that's what it's going to. That's what it's ultimately going to come down to. So yeah, I'm rolling with Washington on that game. To be honest, I'm rolling with Washington.
Yeah, no, I am as well. When you seen that game against Oregon, it made you wonder what defense is going to stiffen up first. Oregon was very stingy throughout the regular season. They had given up the least amount of yards per catch per carry from the line of scrimmage. I mean, they were just ferocious for their regular season. But then they faced Michael Penix in a rematch in a Pac-12. No, the Pac-12 no longer #no longer. Obviously, with the Pac-12 kind of dissolving as if they're in a box of quicksand. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for the Pac-12 for as long as they've been around. But Michael Penix Jr., he was able to really get it done. He gave it to his workhorse from a running perspective, especially on 3rd and short in the red zone. They did everything right. I mean, there was only a few miscommunications by Penix to a couple of his star wideouts, but at the end, when it's all said and done, that game was probably one of the best regular season, or I should say a Pac-12 championship game season. And what's interesting is that no longer will the Pac-12 exist, but that's the last Pac-12 trophy they're probably going to give out ever. So that certainly has its own set of historical value sitting in their cabinet gaining dust.
I love it. Well, we have the NBA and we have a new acronym, guys. It's the IST now is a acronym that we need to know and know what it stands for. Obviously, it's the in-season tournament. And what's the difference between saying IST? It almost sounds like I'm talking about like NASCAR racing technique or something. I like just saying like in-season tournament personally, but we do have the semifinals. I've been chatting here with Dan Kelly in the chat room. He was pretty funny here. He says he has a whole bunch of trends and angles for the IST, right? They're all 0-0. And that's a great point to make because I'm very cautious on these games. There's no history behind it. There is added momentum, added motivation in these matchups. But how can you not like how Indiana is playing right now? I mean, he has that team just kicking butt right now. And I do think they're kind of the favorite in this thing. I'd like to see them play the Pelicans because this is kind of like the next generation. It's almost like the Western Conference perennial winners like Golden State, the Lakers, even the Clippers are struggling. It seems like there's a change of the leadership here going on with Minnesota Timberwolves playing awesome basketball, and of course the Pelicans and others that are. We would think of the mascot as and think losing record teams. Now we're seeing something completely different. I'll turn it over to Rudy here and pick one of the games or pick a winner of the whole event, which will end in Las Vegas on Saturday, and tell us what you think of these matchups.
You know, the way the Lakers are playing are spotty at best. Of course, coming from a Lakers fan, it's very, very spotty. And they barely pulled it out the other night. Of course, I watched a little bit of that Clippers game against the oh my gosh, just name escapes me, against the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions. And the Nuggets seemed to have problems with the Clippers. It was going back and forth in the second and third quarter, respectively. The Pacers, however, yeah, and to your point, Dan, Pacers are playing unbelievable basketball. I haven't seen the Pacers become this relevant since sliced bread was created. They've just done so many. They've done so many great things during the offseason to get them prepared for a very tumultuous on the road at home season. And I've really, man. And then you look at New Orleans. The Pelicans are just playing like lights out. Zion finally getting his due, his time on the floor, being able to really make an impact on that team. He made an impact with them from the bench, but you know, you don't get paid millions of dollars to be a cheerleader sitting on the sidelines. You get paid for production on the floor and what you mean as one of those key cogs in any defense or offensive set. But I think that the Pelicans are certainly a team to look out for. I don't know if the Pelicans win it all, but I do know they're going to be really deep in this mix. And I'm trying to find the bracket to save my life, and I'm having trouble finding the overall bracket. But I think that this is going to be a very competitive play-in. And I don't even know who won that game last night between the Nuggets and the Clippers. It was kind of lethargic because they're always a 1-2 score between both of them. But I'm glad the NBA is back, to say the very least. But I do certainly like talking some NBA. I'm just not as acclimated as I would like to be with the NBA. I do have 3 jobs and school, so I keep myself relatively occupied with that. However, I digress. Go ahead.
That's quite all right. I agree 100% that, cautious is a good thing here. You don't want to try to be a hero and even bet your normal amount in these games, but I think there'll be some good entertainment, especially the fact that I pulled this up in the database. How many games do you think have had a total of 250 or more in the NBA?
I don't, how many games had a total of 250 this season?
Yeah.
Maybe
where the
20.
total betting line was 250 or more points.
I don't know, maybe 20.
Which is a ton. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about an all-star game back in the 90s with 250.
I would say maybe 20.
Said, oh, it's not going to happen.
How many? Is it maybe 20?
It's 5.
Woo! Okay.
And all 5 have occurred since 2021. There was, scoring started increasing in 2017, and progressively was getting higher and higher. And we got away from those. Remember the Miami Heat games with totals of like 158, and they were kind of hard to watch, but at the same time, it was just a different way to play basketball. But now we have a total of 250. In these previous 5 games, guys, the total has gone over 4-1. Only one game did not go over a total of 250 points so far. And intuitively, I have a hard problem getting that around my head that there's going to be that many points scored, but Indiana can do it. And we'll have to just wait and see what happens to that. But Barry, tell us who you'd like to win this whole thing on Saturday and anything else you want to share.
So when it comes to this in-season tournament, you got the Pacers and the Bucks. The Pacers look really good. I mean, I love what Rick Carlisle's been doing out there. I love Halliburton. I mean, you kind of felt like he was taking that next step, especially during the FIBA World Championship. You're like, man, this dude is going to be somebody great one day. And he's just stepped right into that role. He's kind of taken off the way Ant-Man did last season, Anthony Edwards did last season, finally becoming a household name. And with the Bucks, man, the Bucks, they're great offensively, especially when Chris Middleton can get it going to help out Giannis and Damian Lillard. But at the end of the day, I just feel like, you know, their defense, they're not gelling on the defensive end of the floor just yet. And I think that the Pacers just ride this wave, and I think that I like them in a close game over the Bucks. And then when it comes down to the Lakers, as much as I do like what the Lakers have been doing this season, I like what they did in the offseason, you know, with the additions of guys like Christian Wood. I still feel like the Pelicans are a young up and coming team, and I'm curious to see what they can do when it comes when the money's on the line, when the chips are on the table. So I'm gonna rock with the Lakers. Obviously I'm wearing the California colors, so I'm a Lakers fan. But at the same time, I feel like that's going to be a close game too, and I would not be surprised to see the Pelicans end up winning that game because they're a team that's young and hungry, and they finally have their guy back. And we'll see if he can stay healthy. But yeah, so I'm gonna rock with the Lakers and the Pacers, and I like the Lakers to win it all, to win this tournament.
Awesome stuff. I'll give you this as a reason to possibly bet the over. And again, in-game scoring volatility in the NBA. There's periods of time where they average roughly, both teams will average roughly 4 points a minute. And when you see that happen, that total is going to come down. The odds are astronomically large that would be the lowest price total pre-flop. So I'm willing to bet that you might be able to get something in the low 240s, maybe in the high 230s during the first half. And if you like the over, that's how I would play it. I wouldn't bet this game pre-flop. I'd let the game come to me. And you know what? If I don't get the bet off, I don't get the bet off because this is the IST format. Yeah, I got it right, guys.
Sounds so weird, man.
Professional on that, didn't I? But anyway, Pistons and Bucks. Pistons are let's see, over under. They're 12-9 so far. And the Bucks are 14-7 over under. So that's pretty good stuff so far. Neither one is good against the spread. They're losing records against the spread, but we know what their records are outside of that. And I didn't mean to say Pistons. I meant to say the Pacers. Mm-hmm. So I think the over is a good play here for what that's worth. So that'll bring us to the end of the show. But before I let you guys go, Rudy and Barry, tell us, a little bit about what's going on in your careers and anything you want to promote about your radio shows. They're both awesome shows that I highly recommend everybody check out. So we'll start with Rudy and then Barry, and then I'll end the show with my famous quote.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, John. Thanks for having me on. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. No, I mean, I always have something going on. I'll have an upcoming interview with a gentleman who should be known and not be left off NFL draft boards, in Dawson Snyder. He is an absolute beast. I'm going to be interviewing him on my show as he prepares for the 2024 NFL draft. And then on top of that, I'm at SiriusXM as well as iHeart Radio, reporting news. So you guys can always tune in and listen to things that are going on within the Southern California area on KVTA. I do that from 11 a.m. First report at noon, and I get done with Seattle 1090, the Patriot at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So check it out. I've already put my credentials in to attend the NFL draft. So let's hope, crossing fingers and toes, that I get the approval. So that's what that's what I'm working on here. And it's in Vegas. So there you go. There's the ultimate betting spot right there.
Yeah, but remember, Rudy, you're going to school. You have to be disciplined. You got to do those homework assignments while you're in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'll get right on it. Considering the finals, considering my finals are due this week, so yeah, I'll be more than done by then.
Well, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Barry, tell us what's going on in your world.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Barry Long II. I am the host of the 5150 Sports Show. Got a few other podcasts that I've been featured on. So that stuff will be popping up on your timeline if you follow me. Follow me on IG at Barry Long II. I'm also on Facebook at Barry Long II. It's Barry Long the second, not the first, not the third.
Awesome stuff. And for me, check me out at predictiveplaybook.com and John Ryan Sports is the #1 on the X. All these great little names. IST, we got the X. I mean, it's just incredible what we learn in just one little day. But anyway, seriously, check me out at predictiveplaybook.com. Got customer appreciation going on today. 14-4 ATS run in the NFL. And guys, on a sad note, I was eliminated on Monday.
No.
Can you believe this?
Yeah.
Jacksonville broke my heart. I fell asleep when it was 28-21. This is true. I thought, all right, they finally got control of the game, and the good Lord, got me some sleep because I think I would have probably not felt well watching the end of that game and then overtime. It just goes to show how tough it is. And Jacksonville's a double-digit favorite. I'm thinking that there's only 122 left out of 5,000, and I started smelling the pot there for a little bit, but believe me, I was smelling a dog with fleas when I woke up. I just was like so numb.
You better put on some powder on that, John.
Oh, I think I would have. I think I would have actually. I'm a pretty calm guy. I think I probably would have said something when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and like the NFL betting gods were against me.
Yeah. Oh gosh, man.
What a shame.
What a shame.
Anyway, it's always fun to do those every year. So I'll let you guys get going. Thanks a lot, Barry and Rudy, for your time and energy and passion. And until next time, folks, remember one thing from this show: bet with your head, never over it, and may all the wins be yours.